So today at Bay State Engines / Small Engine Solutions, all same company, we have a China knockoff carburetor. These carburetors are everywhere. And because this machine was sitting for a couple of years with the same fuel in the carburetor's gummed up. We can't get this machine started. So this is a newer style one with a split cover. The older style ones have a bit of a different cover. They kind of suck to get at. This cover's a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to show you how to rebuild this carburetor today. Now to get started, we do have 4 10mm bolts that we're going to have to get off. This can be left in place. There is a little notch for it, so it looks to be in the right place. So you can see the little notch that's designed to pass through. Yeah, you see that there? You'll figure it out.
Yeah, this is it.
You can leave the key on, and you're going to have to undo the primer as it comes out, but this is our first step to get this off. It just takes a little bit of upward pressure. And then with your favorite tool, feel free to bump these off. And also notice that 2 of these screws are longer than the other 2. The short ones actually go on this side, and the longer ones remain over here. So we do want to be mindful of the choke shaft. So we're going to lift this up just a little bit to get it off of there. We're going to pull this up. And we can swing this out of the way. Then we're going to undo our connections in here. The primer line, which we will be replacing anyway. This one seems to really be on there. I almost want to just cut it. Yeah, I'm just going to cut it. And then these 2 on your kill switch, you can just kind of leave in place. If you do decide to remove these, there is a tab on them that makes it a little bit difficult to remove. You usually have to push the tab back, which is so much fun that we're not even going to do it on this video. We'll
just leave it on.
Yeah. So here we go. This is our air horn. So this is taking warm air from up on top of the carburetor, rerouting it into the carburetor. So this is our next point of attack that we have to get to here. We'll take those off. We'll just zip these out of the way. Once again, 10s in here. And if you really don't feel like going soup to nuts on this deal, you can actually leave this in place. Part of the issue with this is you have to kind of finagle it to get it off there. But there are 2 screws that you can use and just split this instead of doing it the hard way like I'm doing here. And then the breather tube is on this side. And once you get that off, it should just slide right out of the way. Now you see these 2 ports that feed air into the intake of the carburetor, and that is actually a carburetor vent up there. We will be blasting these out with solvent and compressed air. This is our choke shaft. You can see that it's working okay. Sometimes on the really bad carburetors, you'll see like a skim coat of green or brown junk in here. Luckily, this one doesn't look too bad, but these are definitely clogged up, and we're gonna have to attack those. Now, the one thing that's good about these carburetors, even though they're not a Kiihin carburetor, they are a ripoff of the Kiihin carburetor that Honda uses. So as a result, these Kiihin carb replacement parts fit. We do have a float chamber that's brand new, and then we have the float itself is brand new. We don't always have to use these parts, but almost specifically, we're certainly going to be replacing this float needle. Has a little rubber tip at the end. You see those gouged up. Sometimes you see these covered in green and stuck in the place that they're in. There is a spring that we're gonna have to swap over. Do not lose the spring. Be very careful because we don't get those by themselves. So we're gonna pop this open. I have a rag placed underneath this because I am pretty sure a bunch of fuel is gonna leak out as soon as I remove this. Now this one over here is the drain. If you don't plan on rebuilding the carburetor, you just wanna drain some fuel through it, you can go about it this way and just remove this one. Remember, this one actually has a Phillips on the bottom of it, so you know that it's not the one holding the bowl on. This one over here is a little bit more involved because this is what physically holds the bowl onto the carburetor. And there we go in the carburetor bowl. Yeah, you see there's a little bit of non-liquid type stuff here. You see this gel? This seems to be what the ethanol fuel is turning into, especially when it encounters any sort of moisture. This is unfortunate. This is essentially the reason we're cleaning out this carburetor. Okay. Now that we've gotten to this stage, we have our float pin. Be sure that the float pins aren't frozen. On the really nasty carburetors, these float pins will be frozen. Take this out, put it aside somewhere where hopefully you're not going to lose it. And here's our float assembly with the needle. You can see this whole spring here that I was talking about. We are going to swap that over. Now this float is in pretty good shape, so we're just going to clean it off, and we're actually going to reuse it and save the customer $5 or $6. Inside of here, there is the main jet, and behind the main jet is the emulsion tube. We're going to remove those two pieces. This is typically what clogs the carburetor up and prevents it from starting. So, because we're prepared for this and we've done this before, we actually have a small flathead that will fit just into the main jet. Anything larger than this really isn't going to fit. At times I have had to modify a screwdriver to get in there. Before you go crazy here, you definitely want to make sure that the screwdriver is fully engaged into the main jet, because it's only made of brass. And if you strip the main jet out, you might as well just buy a whole carburetor and start over. So I definitely know that I'm in there where I need to be. I'm listening for a little bit of a click. And there we go. So now I know I'm physically turning the main jet. It should come out nice and easy. Like I said, on green carburetors, the ones that are all gummed up, you're probably gonna have to spray some solvent in here and work back and forth a little bit. So now that I've got the main jet loose, I'm gonna sneak this in here. Get the main jet out. Hopefully not dropping it on the shop floor. So there's our main jet. What I'm going to be looking for here, whether or not you're going to be able to see it on camera, there is a small hole in there. And this one, you still can't see through it, right? Looks like it's completely clogged up. So this is preventing the fuel in the bowl from reaching the airstream of the carburetor in here where we want it. Up there at the top, you can see the very top of the emulsion tube. We're going to pop that out. So with my fancy tweezers here, we're going to go back in. Okay, we're going to go back in there, and we're going to try and stick this in the middle of the emulsion tube and just pull it out. Once again, you see all the junk on the emulsion tube. That's what's causing all of our issues here. The gasoline on itself will never be able to get that out. Even if you put some sort of snake oil stuff in there like seafoam, that really doesn't work. It's not the correct way to clean the carburetor. You actually have to disassemble the carburetor, clean it out, and put it back together. This is a picture of the clogged up main jet and emulsion tube. Now that we have all of our parts removed, we're going to go ahead and clean up the carburetor's body. There is an idle jet up here that we haven't pulled out yet. It's located under that little throttle stop, if you can see it. So we will be attacking that in the future. But what we're going to do, we're actually going to stick this in here, hit it with a little bit of carburetor cleaner. Safety glass is definitely recommended for this step. Then we're going to follow it up while it's still wet with some compressed air. So I'm actually going to go out this way. Now that we've gotten the carb bowl clean, we're going to move on to the main jet. I've actually already poked something through there to punch the sticky fuel out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it like this, and I'm going to blast through it. And hopefully you can see a nice stream of carb cleaner coming out of there. Follow it up with the air. Good to go. And the emulsion tube, which is also in rough shape. What I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to block the back of the emulsion tube with my finger. I'm going to put the same carb cleaner in there. You see the cleaner blasting out of all those little ports and jets. We're going to blast this through. And to check my work, I actually take this and I hold it up and make sure it's nice and clean so I can see through it. Can you see daylight through there? I'm probably getting the angle way off. There it is, you can see it. And same thing with the main jet. We are going to be reusing the float chamber, so there is a little bit of junk here. Make sure you clean off all that goop before you go back together with it. Now that we've got everything pretty clean, we're going to start with this emulsion tube. We're going to push this into the carburetor. Make sure it's like all the way in there. I usually take the tool and stick it in first. so I'm not forcing it with these brass threads. Then I take the main jet in this direction, put that in there, get it started. And I'm actually going to start by turning this counterclockwise, if I can get on there, until I hear a click. And then I'm going to go back in with it nice and gentle. Do not force anything in this area or you will get into trouble. So I'm going to cinch that up. Once again, don't go crazy on the torque. It's time to swap over our needle valve. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to angle it this way. I'm going to pull it out. Like I said with the spring, make sure you don't lose it. Getting rid of that old one. I'm going to open up and install our brand new one. So there we go, there's our new float needle. I'm gonna put that on there. I'm gonna use the body of the float bowl. Notice the direction of these. I'm gonna use the body to push the spring down. I'm gonna slide that little mushroom top on there and it's right in place. You can see all of the spring is on this side of the needle and the top is the only thing on that side of the float. Beautiful, right? So before I put the float in place, we have a brand new float bowl gasket. Once again, you kind of need a microscope for this, but these are directional. This side with the nubbies on it goes into the carburetor first. You see those little nubs there yet? And then on this side, you can see there's a tiny little ring that's used for sealing it. Yeah, it's probably hard to focus. Oh, you can see it? All right, beautiful. So we're gonna take it and we're gonna put this in place first. Make sure that the carburetor's body is dry. If any solvent gets on this, it will expand and then it will not fit. So once I put those in place, before I put any of the guts in there, I'm actually gonna take the float chamber and I'm gonna just seat that whole thing in there and I'm gonna make sure it stays in place. I'm pretty happy with how that went together. Now we go on to our float itself. We put that in where it belongs. And then put the needle back in here. Okay. Everything here has to move freely. This is designed to flow and meter clean gas only, nothing else. Now we're moving back to our float chamber. We're going to put this on so that the drain is accessible with this put together. You see the orientation of the drain? Try and get it pretty close to where it started. And then just like the first step to get this off, we're going back on with this. Once again, be gentle. Make sure there's the little gasket in place in between. Yep, there we go. We're going to tighten that up. And another thing that's good to note when you put these together, see this right here, we want to make sure that that's centered on the carb's body. You want to make sure you're not hung up on one side or the other. That will cause a lot of issues when you're trying to put the float chamber back on.